Good morning. I'm Heather Smith, the creator of BarrelRacingTips.com, and this morning I'm bringing you Pistol's Progress episode number 21. So we just got finished with our ride, and again, Pistol is lounging in the arena. .com is actually, he's been lounging this morning also. He's behind me as well as Frosty. So I've been getting my best barrel horse back in shape lately, and as many of you know, I'm bringing you for a trip behind the scenes as we make progress. And I've been coming and doing these live videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, just to let you know what we're working on and also give you some tips and takeaways that you can apply to your horses and with your barrel racing. So this morning I thought I would share a little bit about how our ride went, and then I was going to go into a little bit more depth in some of the tips that I have for horses that tend to get nervous. So Pistol does not really fit into that category, .com does, but so that portion of the tips do not necessarily relate to Pistol, but I will talk a little bit about our ride this morning. One of the challenges that we had, and that we've kind of had on and off a little bit, is that his energy levels are not really high, and there can be several reasons for this. Hi Felicia. Oh, I was going to mention too that I would love to know how you're progressing with your horses this week. Like, since I'm sharing one of my challenges, and then I'll share some of my wins and some tips, I would love to know like what you're focusing on this week as well. So with Pistol, his energy levels haven't been really high, and so I talk a lot about having a balanced whoa and go, meaning our horse, we can't be micromanaging our horses to keep their forward motion going, or micromanaging them to keep them slowed down and connected to us, because our aids, like the methods that we use of communicating, like our weight, our seat, our legs, and so forth, like if we're having to use our body to like keep asking our horse to go constantly, then those resources are basically going to be like somewhat used up. So, and we're going to have less available to actually communicate and get really refined and specific about our horse's position and balance and shape and so forth. So I really don't like being in that position where I'm having to encourage my horse to go. And we have to be able to sort out, like, is it an education issue where it's like, do they really need a reminder, like, hey, when I ask you, it's your responsibility to keep going the speed that I suggest and follow the energy in my body and match it? Or are there legitimate things, like, for example, I've been making some tweaks to Pistol's diet. I'm going to continue making some tweaks just to make sure he legitimately has the energy reserves that a more laid-back horse in the heat of the summer when it's like 100 degrees needs to have. And so he just popped his head around the corner over here, so I had to let you see him. So that was one of my challenges. And so like I said, I'm always working on like how can I eliminate that challenge. And one of the things that went really well is that I haven't really been doing, this is his session number 21, but I've only actually ridden him probably not even 10 times yet, because I started out the first month of bringing him back. He had a really, really long break. So I started out that first month with ground conditioning. So I'd have somewhere between maybe getting close, not even 10 rides. I'll have to look up and get that number. But I haven't even started doing close range barrel work yet. I haven't actually set up the pattern yet. And that's because I'm constantly taking his understandings on the pattern, his form, his habits, his movement patterns, his biomechanics to a whole another level. And this is something that, you know, if we're like going out and just winning everything we enter, like, yeah, go with it if it's working. But in every other case, there's room for improvement, you know, like if we don't think our horse has reached their potential, or if there's room for things to get better, then we need to be working on it constantly. And so I've been totally recreating like his habits and ways of moving around a barrel. So we've been working on getting our circles really perfect in a large circle around a barrel. I've been keeping the barrel like in my peripheral vision, but not focusing on it. And I think that has been really helpful. If I turn my head and just think about the barrel, I feel his weight like shift and kind of drop in like this. And he has somewhat of a habit in his turns of sort of leaning in and kind of pushing his feet away at an angle and kind of overweighting the inside and getting a little bit strung out like this. And I want him to really stay more engaged, more forward-wheel drive, more square, more elevated in the front end. And so I've been really focusing on keeping the weight and using the weight in my stirrups to influence his weight balance, and making sure that my stirrups are weighted more evenly, because I tend to overweight the outside a little too much. And I've been really focusing on, one thing I really did today is that where my eyes are looking, I didn't get ahead of myself. Like, I kept my eyes focused just like a step or two on the ground ahead of like where we're going. And he was able to stay a lot, and he stayed a lot more square and underneath me and balanced. Whereas if we're anticipating, like, of course, if we're rushing, and if we're doing this, if we're thinking about the barrel, if we're looking way ahead, like on the circle, of course our horse is going to be going like this in their movement. Even if they're just trotting around and they're not actually cutting a corner in their steps, they're going to be shifting their weight and using their body in that way. So that was really helpful for me today. I was also really focused again on just keeping my eyes up, my chin up, my shoulders back, using my pelvis, just rocking more of my weight back to really keep him elevated and eliminate some of the habit he has of overflexing and dipping like too low down in that phase of his stride, like at a lope. So good morning, Sabrina. Thanks so much for being here. So with that, that's what we were working on this morning, but I was really pleased with how he progressed. We definitely made good progress. He's getting more and more solid, and we're being able to make those circles smaller and smaller, and I anticipate probably being able to set up the pattern next week. So I wanted to talk a little bit about nervous horses today, and again, this doesn't necessarily relate to pistol, but I wanted to share like some examples of how I would address or treat a horse that tended to get nervous. So the thing, like when it comes to seasoning, to be totally honest, like I do the majority of seasoning, like really before my horse has ever really started with competing. Like I want my horse to have already, like of course they're not going to have been hauled all over the country to like, you know, big time pro rodeos, although, I mean, if you're already going with other horses, you know, bring the colts if you can or whatever. Like I've definitely been in that situation where I was hauling my youngsters along to see the sights while I was competing at on an older horse. But I do like a lot of that preparation is something that I do. Hold on just a second. So here's the thing. I just noticed we just had all the grass mowed yesterday, and there's these dried grass clippings around the edge of the arena, and there's a big pile of them right here, and Pistol was sticking through his nose through the fence and eating them. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but grass clippings, like the dried clippings from mowing the lawn, are not good for horses. And like it can cause digestive upset or colic even. So he's like really munching on those clippings. So I'm just gonna take you with me really quick. So pardon me. I hope the connection stays. So yeah, this is real life behind the scenes. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but you never want to throw grass clippings like over the fence to your horse. It's not quite, doesn't work quite the same as hay. So I didn't think of that, but there's only a few spots where there's some grass clippings, so. All right, I lost the connection there for a second, so I didn't know if it was still live or not. I thought I would have to start over. So forgive us for that, but so I'll just start from where I left off from right here. So as I was talking about with nervous horses, to be honest, like I think that people underestimate what it takes to really prepare a horse to be really solid and confident mentally and emotionally for competition. And if our horse, like they don't get a green light to go to the next step until they can be accepting and reasonably calm and cool and accepting of like going to a barrel race or hauling out or traveling in the trailer. And I mean, I want my horse to be able to be confident with that whole environment and everything before I add the stress and the pressure of actually competing. And so there might be times too when, okay, I'm back. The connection was kind of poor over there, so I'm walking back to the barn. So sometimes with our horses, like if, let's say that we have not been including enough of that time for them to regroup, and they've just been competing and under a lot of pressure regularly. And so sometimes I think it's great if our horse, let's say they get a little bit hot, to go back and do some just exhibitions with an older horse until they can enter the arena and be confident and cool about it. So again, my apologies for being all over the place, but I had to go grab Pistol. Can't put him at risk. So anyway, let me just catch up with comments really quick. Oh, Suzanne, this is kind of a unique situation. That's great to hear, Felicia. Awesome. I've got to work on my my position when I'm reading comments, because you get like, I noticed yesterday on the live video, it was like a really, I was giving you a major forehead shot as I was leaning in to read the comments. So anyway, so on the nervous horse. So one of the things that I do that prepares our horse to be confident is their education. Because through educating them, we're teaching them to think. And when they have the ability to think and they practice that ability, and we have introduced them into gradually increasing, intensity of situations where they need to respond to us and think through situations, and then their confidence is going to grow and grow and grow, because the more they think, the better they get at thinking through things and not immediately like reacting and going kind of right brain and getting worked up and worried. So the more education we give them, the better. The other benefit of giving them an education is that it also involves moving their feet and getting them confident with their feet. And a horse that is confident with their feet, and like if they get in a bind, they don't panic. Like I don't want my horse to like stutter step and like go bang, ba, bang, 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 like when they're loading on the trailer, because like that's not a horse that's confident with their feet. Like I want to have worked with them and exposed them and rewarded them for their calmness and connected them with me and worked through that enough to where they are totally confident about stepping in. I want my horse to be able to back in and out of the trailer if I ask them to, and to be able to do these things and position their feet up on things and around things without getting anxious. And so here's the thing, is that when we do that and we truly prepare our horses for or being confident about their feet for hauling, you name it, they're going to be more confident in less than ideal ground conditions. They're going to be able to, they're more likely to think instead of react, and so forth. And so these are things that we can do to build our horse's confidence. And then, like I said, like my horse has to pass like certain tests before I go to the next level. So if I have a horse that's getting like really, really nervous at competition, then I will back down my expectations and go and fill in the gaps in a little bit like less stressful environment. And a lot of us say, oh, my horse is at fine at home, but they're bad at a show or whatever. But then it's like, well, there's a lot of in between there, like riding at the local fairgrounds, going to just a small jackpot and doing an exhibition. There are all these different ways in where we can simulate that higher pressure environment without like totally overwhelming them, and then being there to, you know, move and interrupt the pattern and disrupt like their nervousness, get them focused back on us, get them thinking, get them softening, getting them relaxing, and then rewarding that relaxation with more relaxation. And it's something that we can like teach them, and the more time they spend there, the more likely they are to go back there, where they just don't get to practice like being in that mental emotional state that we don't want, because we're so intentional. And the thing of it is that like it takes time and commitment and awareness on our part. Like we don't just like throw our horse in the trailer and hope for the best, and then like then walk around like we're like helpless victims or something. Like I am really intentional about really helping and overseeing and creating and investing. And I do a lot of it, especially in the early stages with the horse. And then it will pay off later. Like it is so much like creating a rodeo horse has so much less likely to do with their personality as it has likely to do with their development that has been invested in them and how they've been prepared. And so that is something to lick and chew on when it comes to nervous horses. It's really like the mental and emotional state that we want to create is completely in our hands. Like we hold the paintbrush. Whatever it is we want more of or we want less of, we have the power to create in our horses. And I want to create feelings that contribute to health and longevity and high-level performance. And at every moment and in every decision we make, we are either building that up, those qualities that we want, or we're making choices or neglecting or, you know, doing things that are going to take away from that. So it's really empowering to think how effective we can be and how much influence that we have over that. So. Hi, Jackie. That's a good question. No, I don't take outside horses in to ride at this point in time. It's something I've considered, and we're actually set up fairly well, except for one drawback or one reason, one obstacle for us has been the condition of our arena, but we are getting that totally redone this year, and that's one of our big focuses, our big projects. And so that's going to open up some opportunities for branching out into other directions. And I don't know that I will head in that direction yet, but it will allow for more opportunities for sure. So yeah, Felicia said, I noticed I was working the pattern, mare was getting behavioralish. So this week I've taken her back down to the snaffle in the arena, working on rollbacks. So you mentioned your horse picking up to the incorrect lead, and for me that has everything to do with the ability to yield their hips. And so if I can just tip their hips one way or the other, like really effectively, and if I can like influence their body and pick up their shoulder or yield their ribs over a little bit, then I should have no problem asking them to pick up a specific lead. So it all comes down to being able to move the body parts around effectively. So if I put a little bit of leg on and like they don't shift their weight or move it over like instantly, then it would be not surprising that there would maybe be an issue with lope departure or getting on the correct lead. So soundness issues can be a big contributor too. So, but anyway, I hope that this. Yeah, Jackie, there's and the thing of it is that it's not about just hauling them to see things. We don't just haul our horses, like haul them and haul them and haul them and let them just hang out and like that's like that exposure and that just hanging out is part of it. But we need to be involved with our horses. So if we have a horse that's jumpy and spooky, then I might haul a couple other horses with them if I have other horses to work with. But if I have a horse with a big problem like that, they're going to be my number one focus. And they're getting them over and helping them gain confidence and work through that issue might be my number one focus for like 3 weeks, you know. And I might haul other horses, like go and like ride, like work them first, and then set them up at the trailer with an alfalfa treat, and then work another horse, so that like they just start to associate like going places with, you know, as being positive. And then I'm causing them to mentally connect. I'm interrupting that mental emotional state that I don't want, and I'm changing it. I'm asking them to soften, to yield, to put their attention back on me. And at every time I notice a positive change in them, then I'll reward it, and I'll reward it, and I'll reward it. And the more that they like, you know, the more that they get into that, we help them get to that state, the more they're going to go there and not leave, the more they're going to seek it out, and so forth. But it's very much involved. It's not just, it's so much more than just taking them and letting them hang out. Like, that's part of it, definitely. But for a horse that's really struggling, like, I will be very much working with them, like on the ground, under saddle, and like helping them mentally and emotionally, what might be my number one focus for like several weeks. Where like, I won't really like everything else would be secondary and would only really be a green light. Would they only really be ready to like, yeah, let's go focus on working the barrel pattern, or let's consider doing an exhibition. Like, they have to pass these specific tests and have that emotional fitness before I would ask for that next level of pressure or like stress, you know, potential stress. So, and then again, like diet, the potential for ulcers. Like there are a lot of people I realize that feed alfalfa only diets, like or there are a lot of processed feeds out there. Those are examples of basically recipes for hot horses. And the thing of it is that you can always, you know, regroup and feed your horse a cooler diet. And then if at any point your horse is really solid and confident and you just need like more energy, you can always add that in later, you know. But that's something to think about too. It's kind of crazy to think that like we don't want to be trying to fix, like we can create, like part of creating what we want with that paintbrush is through their management and their diet. It is like one of the best, quickest ways to make a big change for their attitude and their anxiety or stress level and so forth. So that's a biggie too. Good morning, Sharon. I am just getting ready to tune out for today. So again, I was a little bit all over the place with having to rescue Pistol from the grass clippings. So thanks for hanging with me in there through that. I tried to be a little bit more succinct, but we were kind of all over the place, in part due to that this morning. But I will be back Friday morning with another episode of Pistol's Progress, where I will share more about what we're working on, and then anything else that comes to mind that that I think would be beneficial for you to think about and apply with your horses as well too. So it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you again soon.